What's going on, party people, and welcome to episode 14 of the Whatnauts Review Show, where each week we pick something new to talk about, whether it be a comic book, movie, TV show, anime, manga, something else, who knows. We read it, we watch it, we do what we have to do, we come back here, and we talk about it. My name is Kyle Springer, and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. How are you, Melissa?
Oh, I'm doing great, Kyle. How are you this morning?
Very good. I am actually double-fisting it today. I have my superhero. I have a Spider-Man cup in one hand and then a Justice League cup in the other. I got chocolate milk. That's what Spider-Man is full of right now. And like 2 minutes before the show, I was like, man, I really like this chocolate milk, but it is not good for like keeping your mouth like lubricated or anything to like speak, because milk will have that like filmy like it covers your whole mouth. So I was like, I need some water. So I had to go get water. So if you see me sipping on both of them, then it's like I really want chocolate milk, but I also need something to wash it down.
Yeah, I understand.
So that is where my morning is at today.
Yeah. I went and I treated myself to a mocha frappuccino at Bread Co., which is Panera Bread in all other parts of the country, but it originated here in St. Louis, so here it's just St. Louis Bread Company.
Interesting.
And I treated, I thought I'd treat myself. I got one of the little frappuccinos, and then when I rung out, the woman at the counter said, "Oh, there's a reward on your card. You have a free sandwich that expires in 2 days." Like, oh, I'm so glad I, like, went out and was like, I'm going to have a treat today.
You've been saving the sandwich the whole time and it's about to expire?
I didn't know I had it. Like, I wouldn't have known if I hadn't had, decided to have basically a milkshake for breakfast.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Yeah, it's supposed to be real hot here today, so I'm not looking forward to that. But, speaking about food and washing things down, we are going to be talking about a very interesting manga today. Let me open up it on Comixology here so I can get all of the info on who it's by and stuff like that, because I am not prepared. So we are reading a manga called Chow Down Champs. And wow. This was an interesting manga.
This really was. I'm so glad we read this one.
So I found it on Comixology Unlimited, just kind of scrolling through what they had, and it immediately caught my eye. And I was like, what in the world is that? And I looked at it, and it's a sports manga. And I've been wanting for a long time to get into like the sports anime, sports manga, just to kind of see what's out there, because I don't know much. I've seen Initial D, and that's about it. And I really love that one, which is surprising because it's about cars, and I know nothing about cars. It also has terrible animation, but it is so good. It is surprisingly good. But yeah, so I found Chow Down Champs in Comixology Unlimited, and I was like, oh, just by the name alone, that sounds amazing. So it's a manga, I guess, written and drawn by Shigeru Tsushiyama. I believe that is how you pronounce his name. And we read the first 4 volumes. You were the one that picked this of the 3 options we had last week. So Melissa, what did you think of this?
This was really fun. I liked how it never got really intense. There wasn't a lot of drama, but there was exactly the type of drama at the amount that you do want out of a story like this. Just like big and boastful and, vigilance for the team. Like everybody's yelling a lot, and it was really fun.
This was ridiculous. I think, let's put it this way. I thought the manga was terrible, but it was so much fun, and it was so ridiculous that I loved it. I was like, this is written so poorly. The characters are all just cardboard stereotypes.
Yes.
But the whole premise of this thing is so ridiculous, and how serious they take it in the thing is it's so funny.
Yeah, and like after reading 4 volumes, I still don't know if this was a joke or if this was like completely 100% sincere.
I mean, I feel like it's kind of a joke.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, well, I don't know, man. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird. So, Chow Down Champs. For those of you that have not read it, we will give you a short synopsis of what is happening in this book. It takes place in Japan. And if you did not know, Japan has a culture in high school that you really should be a part of some kind of extracurricular school club, because that makes you look good for companies, and Japan is all about that career person work life, nothing else. You know, you work for the good of the company, and if you're not, you're not worth much. And so this idea of like, well, if I can show that I'm a good person and I like want to achieve things and I have goals and I want to do more than is required, then that'll look good for a company that will pay me well so I can take care of my family and stuff like that. And so there's all sorts of different clubs you can find, but this school and apparently a whole bunch of other schools have a competitive eating club. And that is amazing.
Yes.
It's maybe you guys have seen the like hot dog eating contest that they used to do on like Spike TV or whatever it was on. This is kind of the same thing, where they there's different style matches, but it's like they get half an hour and they have to eat as many bowls of some kind of food as they can, or it's a relay match, so each team member gets 20 minutes to eat as many as they can, or first one to finish like 15 of them. It's so ridiculous.
And the author, I think, really did the research to go into this. Like, they go a little bit into, like, the sort of physicality and the actual techniques of how you do it. And
Which is kind
a
of
lot
what
of
makes
it, like,
so ridiculous.
Yeah, and, like, I don't know better, but a lot of it made sense. Like, yeah, I completely believe that is real science that you went out there and you researched. Like, there's the obese guy who shows up, and they're like, no, he won't be able to eat that much because all the fat around his stomach keeps his stomach from stretching that much. Yeah. I'm like, I've never thought about that before, but that seems real.
It's not so outlandish that I'm like, time travel? That would never happen, But it's the thing, like, yeah, if you, because I've always heard, like, the faster you eat, the more you can fit in your stomach, and the more you can kind of, like, trick your body into, like, hey, I'm not full yet, because you're eating so fast that it can't keep up. And they're like, well, yeah, kind of, but you'll tire out real fast. So if you go slow and you just kind of eat it and just pack it in constantly, you know. But yeah, it's so ridiculous because it's not just that one school though.
Yeah.
It seems to be a big thing, and the way they talk about it, yeah, like this is like a big deal club. This is like their basketball team.
Yeah.
Which I think they also have a basketball team, but
there's like
like the competitive eating scene is like the country's premier sport.
Yeah. All these high schools, they have real sports. They've got baseball or volleyball or something, and they have cultural clubs. Like there's the tea ceremony club, and there's the rakugo club.
Yeah.
And then there's the competitive eating club. And at this particular high school, they're treated kind of like misfits, not because competitive eating, what a crazy thing to spend your time on. Just like, oh, we don't know if you're good enough at competitive eating to keep existing as a club at this school. Like, everybody is on the same page of, yeah, competitive eating, completely legitimate for high school kids to get involved with.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's that's kind of the setup, that there is this competitive eating scene in the country, and it's kind of a big deal. And at this particular high school that this takes place at, they bring in a new coach who has kind of a shady past.
Yeah.
But he used to be a competitive eater too, and they kind of bring him on to kind of I guess get that school back in the limelight. They used to be fairly good at competitive eating, now maybe not so much. It sounds like they kind of had some problems in the past, but now they are hoping to get back on track. It was kind of the principle that it was launching all of this stuff.
The principal is my favorite character.
Yeah. So that's kind of the premise of what's happening in this book. I think we are about to dive into spoiler territory and start unpacking it. So if you guys have not read this book, I think there are at least 6 volumes on Comixology Unlimited. We only read the first 4, but that is not the end of the story. So go read that, and then come back and hang out with us. Also, though, if you did not know, this is a live show. So you can be joining us live and talking with us in the chat, telling us your thoughts of what you thought of Chow Down Champs. Whether you thought it was just as bad, yet as completely ridiculous as we did.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to catch the live show, you can go to thewhatnauts.com/live streams. And I have it working now. So you don't even have to go off of our website to catch all of our live streams. I have our Twitch page embedded right there with our schedule and stuff like that. It's cool. It's nice. So come stop by. Every Sunday at noon Eastern time, we will be here. So yeah, spoilers. Spoiler warning done. Let's dive in.
Yes.
So we mentioned the principal. She's kind of the one that gets this thing started. Let's start talking about her.
I just loved her design. I love that she's just this big, soft, jolly-looking, like, 50-year-old woman. And out of a story like this, I might have expected, like, some absolute hard ass. And no, she's, like, absolutely the club's advocate. She is so sweet to them. And, she was just a beacon. I really loved her personality and her character design, because she looked completely different than everybody else.
She seems very, very soft.
Yes.
she's like this 50-year-old woman in this like blouse and skirt, but she's just the most like, she just seems like she would be the nicest person.
Yeah.
And she's super sweet, but she seems like she'd be very quiet, but she seems like she knows like how to have a good, like she knows what she likes and stuff and what she wants to go after. But she's what did you think of her story? Because she's kind of doing this for her grandfather. Was it her grandfather or father?
It was her father, who had been principal of this school before and he had been the principal while the previous incarnations of the eating club had like gotten to the championships, and he loved it.
And
like,
had seen their downfall too.
Yeah, and he was always really proud of the team, and so she wanted to bring the team back up to success again, like in her father's memory, which was very sweet.
Yeah. She's just this sweet little lady. But she's kind of funny because I think she knows how ridiculous it all sounds.
Yeah.
Which is part of why I love her character. Because there's I posted it on our Discord chat. I think that was the funniest page in the whole manga. Whoa, one of them, because there's some ridiculous stuff.
Yeah.
But she will go to any length to kind of make her dream of like reinstating the competitive eating club back into its former glory. And one of the things she does is she buys them a flat screen TV and a DVD player because they need to watch matches and like study tape like a football team or a basketball team might, you know, like, so here's the team we're facing in round 1, see what they do here, you know. And the vice principal, who is kind of like the hard ass, like not even like meaning to be, like, he's not like mean and like oh, I'm the badass around here. He's just like, he's very much like by the books, by the you know. And so he finds out that they have this TV, and he busts in her office and is like, what the hell is going on? What is the meaning of this? And he's like, what? I heard they have a TV. Who said they could have a TV? Why did you give him a TV? And the next thing he says is, they could be watching porn. And it's like, wait, what? Like, where? What? Why do you think they're watching porn? What makes you think that? And then the principal asks, well, don't you like porn? And he's like, well, yes, sometimes, but that's not what I'm talking about. And it's just like, that's the kind of humor and how ridiculous this book is. Like, that had nothing to do with anything, but it, like, that's I think that really made us fall in love with the principal. It's like, oh yeah, she's this nice sweet woman, but I don't really care much about her. And then once you start to see all of these lengths, and then she's just like, but don't you like porn?
Yeah, she's got a real wit to her. She's very smart.
She is
My
smart.
favorite joke in this series was just this little visual gag where somebody needs to Google something and they can't say Google, so instead the screen says Geegle.
Yeah, they do that a lot in anime and manga and stuff.
Oh, I love fake versions of
fake companies
of web searches. Yeah, I love a Geegle.
Yeah, I've seen like Sany instead of Sony. It's SANY.
Sany.
I've seen, I think, in reference, it wasn't a reference to Shrek, but I saw Farbucks.
Farbucks.
Yeah, in one, I totally don't remember what it was, but that was really funny. Was there anything else that kind of stood out about the principal, or should we move on to something else? Move on to another character.
We can move on. We did spend a lot of time talking about a very minor part of this series.
Yes. I mean, that's kind of what this whole series is. I mentioned that I thought this it was written very poorly. And so I don't think. Yeah, and like stuff was just very shallow. I felt like there was very few things that was like, oh, okay, that actually has some depth there and some character growth. But for the most part, I think the writing is not very good. I think it relies a lot on stereotypes to like, oh, here's the badass ladies man that they all want to like give their bento boxes to, you know, who like doesn't care about anything, you know. So yeah, it's I don't know, like, what did you feel about the writing? Like, on a more serious note, like, what was the writing like for you? What did you think?
I've never been really familiar with, like, a sports manga or a sports anime, but as I was reading this, I'm like, this feels like exactly what that thing is.
What I would expect, yeah.
Yeah, it was always completely what I expected, and it felt like just every archetype, every trope, every, like, classic plot hook, like, the classic structure, like, plot-wise, they just laid a piece of tracing paper over, like, you know, the hero's journey of sports manga.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I could see that, and, like, I didn't really have a problem with it, partially because this is the first real time I'm getting involved with this genre. I don't mind that it's all, like, all the standard conventions, because, you know, you don't need to impress me right out the gate. Like, just the classic stuff is fine for me, the beginner. But I also, I thought it was interesting, like, I wondered if the writer took all of the classic stuff, made it as ordinary as possible, just to juxtapose it against the insane actual sport they are doing. Yeah, like, this is just there for just, like, the comedy juxtaposition. Like, the entire plot is the straight man to the concept he is working with.
Yeah. So, when I was watching Initial D, I was watching it on this website, and in the comments, this was, like, I think season 2 or 3, and some guy was, like, rage quitting watching the show. He was done with these. Like, this is so stupid. Like, you like, all sports, or the show is about this guy who, like, knows nothing about the sport, and like, he's some prodigy, and then he starts to kind of know that he's kind of good, and then when he sees someone else who's also really good, they can see their aura, like, oh, he's really good, I can tell just by looking at him. And it, like, he was just like, I don't think he got the kind of ridiculousness of the whole thing. It's like, yeah, like, that's kind of why it's funny, like,
yeah.
But someone else just replied, "Welcome to sports mangas."
And I wonder if that's part of the draw for people, like, oh, I just like seeing, like, a new filter laid over the same stuff I have seen before. I like the classic structure of a sports success story. That's comforting to me. It's just, like, audiovisual or, you know, literary comfort food. And just throw a new sport on there and have it do all the same stuff, and that's maybe what some of the audience is looking for.
Yeah, I think whether or not people realize it, I think everyone likes drama.
Yeah.
Some people like watching The Bachelor or The Bachelorette or reality TV style, you know, mushy relationship, will they, won't they kind of thing, you know. Whereas some other people like sports. And it's honestly the same thing. Will they, won't they, can they beat this?
Yeah.
Will the team stick together? Like, I remember in high school, our star basketball player, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's in the NBA now. I mean, he's not, he was our star, but, you know, in the NBA, he's like average no one.
Yeah.
But he was our star player, and I think we made it to some, like, regional championship thing, and the night before, his girlfriend broke up with him. And that next day, he was just out of it, and we lost. And and everyone knew, and they all hated her because they were just like, what, like the night before, and that she had to like change her number and like do all, because she was getting harassed. But it's like, it's that kind of drama that I think people really love. Like it doesn't matter if it's sports or some reality show. Like we're just like, will they? What's gonna happen? Will they make it through? And so I think, yeah, despite how ridiculous this is, like, I noticed by volumes 3 and 4, I was like, I'm actually kind of into this. Like, I kind of want to know what happens. I kind of want to see if they actually win. Like, I know they will, but at the same time, like, I want to see what happens. Like, how do they get there?
And, like, I feel like a sports story can take, like, one of two diverging paths where, yes, the underdogs do succeed, they do win the championships, or they, like, lose, and it's like, the real success is the friends we made along the way, sort of.
Yeah,
that
the life
plot.
lessons we learned.
Yeah, so, I think there's those two basic things, and you can't really tell at the beginning which one it's going to fall into yet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Did you find the same thing? Like, as you kept reading the book, did you start to get more into it?
Yeah, especially because the original roster of guys that are in the team when the story first starts are all like really generic, and then
They all
when
look
like
the same.
Yeah, that was one of the things. One of the like problems I had with this book is that a lot of the characters looked very similar to each other. Like, they might have a slightly different nose shape or a slightly different haircut, but yeah, there wasn't a lot of effort.
An interesting start.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of effort put into making everybody look very distinct. And on one hand, I kind of like how realistic that is, that nobody has like crazy Yu-Gi-Oh hair or something. But I do wish it would have been a little easier to just
Wait, you're telling me that's not what everyone in Japan looks like? How dare they? I thought they all had Goku Super Saiyan hair.
Yeah, you just step off the plane in Tokyo and it's just Sailor Moon buns as far as the eye can see.
I wish, that'd be awesome.
I do like how like down to earth everything seemed in comparison how crazy the sport is. But I do wish like there had been more visual variety in the way everybody looked, which you do kind of get with this second roster of teammates. I did like them a lot better. Yeah,
so how did you feel about that? Having that whole first volume be kind of this opening team, and at the end of it they all quit. And then volume 2 is when we actually meet all of the characters. It's kind of a bait and switch.
Yeah, right? Which I liked because I wasn't attached to those first round of guys in the first place. It's like, good, new people. Maybe I will like them better. And also that was kind of a turn I wasn't expecting. Like, okay, yeah, all but one guy is gone, and now we have to replace these people.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's an interesting turn of events.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know if I liked it. Because it is one of those things where, as quick of a read each volume was, I spent 200-something pages with these characters, and then you're telling me I'm never going to see them again? Like, what was the point of that? Just skip ahead to the thing where they've already quit, and they just brought on this new coach, and he has to start from scratch. Like, honestly, you could kind of pick up from volume 2, because they do like that page or 2 recap where it's like, they all just quit. What are we gonna do? I guess we have to start from scratch, And it's like, okay, like, I know where we're at. And I feel like I kind of would have liked that better.
Yeah, I think I would have liked it better also if they had just started with, okay, we've got, like, maybe 1 or 2 diehard people, everybody else has fallen off the team because it's been so unsuccessful and like the administration isn't paying any attention to it. Now we really have to go out there and like collect new people that have promise but didn't think about this club to begin with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. 'Cause that, to me, that is part of the fun of, like, he's finding these people that, like, have never done competitive eating before, but he's scouting them based on, like, their everyday actions and, like, how they compose themselves and stuff like that. Because he's like, I see talent in you, or the way you did this, or, you know.
Yeah.
It's also one of those things, like, this is so ridiculous. Like, this is absolutely stupid. But it's kind of fun to see all of the strategy behind it. Did you have a favorite member of the team once they finally get the team together?
I really like the girl with the glasses.
I kind of like her too.
Yeah. She's eating every bento box in the tea ceremony club without shame.
She's kind of like if this was an anime, she'd be like the dark-haired, quiet, weird girl.
Yep.
Maybe she's into like goth stuff, and you know, like she's into like ghosts, and she wears all black, and she's a little more emo than everyone else, you know. And so yeah, we haven't really gotten her story yet from what we read. But she was a lot of fun. I liked her too, because she's also this like small, like thinner girl. And then there's the scene, they're at the tea ceremony, and they go back to go get their lunches, and they're like, "What? Who ate all of our lunches? This is terrible. Who would do such a thing?" And then she's sitting there with like like 2 things of rice like on the edge of her lip, and she licks them off as like, oops. She's kind of dark and mysterious. Yeah,
I like her. I also liked the obese kid with the pompadour. Also, just because
the Elvis haircut.
yeah. Also, just because like the pompadour is something you see on cool people, both in American media and in Japanese media, and I've never seen like the fat nerd get that same haircut.
Well, they didn't really say when this was taking place, or at least from what I could tell.
Yeah, that's something I've realized too. Like, I think that flat screen TV and DVD player is like the most modern technology you see.
And cell phones. I think they use cell phones here and there. But yeah, besides that, there's not much. I mean, there's cars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I was gonna wonder, I wonder if this is like kind of around the time when Elvis was getting big. I think like rock and roll and stuff. I mean, we also haven't got his story yet.
Yeah, I think that has just become like, as from what I've been able to guess from a lot of different manga and anime, is that like that was just an aesthetic that like hit Japan, and I think kind of stuck around, or at least it has stuck around as like kind of an archetype or a stereotype or a shorthand, like, you know, like.
Go ahead, keep going.
Like, I feel like the classic image of the cool kid is Fonzie from way back in the day. Sure. And, like, we don't live in that time period anymore. Like, we don't have Fonzies anymore, but still, nowadays, if you want to have a cool kid, it is a leather jacket. It's not the same kind of leather jacket, but it's a leather jacket. And I feel like the pompadour has stuck around, like, in Japanese culture as part of the same reason.
Yeah. I was going to add, wasn't that kid poor? That was kind of the reason why he broke in?
Well, I really wanted to learn more about him, because what he says is that his mom makes him these big bento boxes for lunch. But
it's not enough.
Yeah, but she got admitted to the hospital, and his dad gave him money saying, here, go to the store and buy yourself a bento box. And, like, he couldn't get enough at the store. And so I don't know if it was, like, they're poor, or like his dad just has no idea. Like, preparing food for him was always the mom's job, and the dad doesn't really have a great gauge on, okay, this is how much I need to feed this boy. Yeah. Like, that was just, like, I don't know if they're poor or if the dad's just not paying attention or is just very stressed out. And, like, we didn't find out anymore about, like, why was his mom in the hospital? Is this some serious illness?
Right.
Did she just have to go in for, like, a
I'm sure all of
routine-
these things are gonna come back up later on.
Yeah. I wanted to learn more about him because, like, I felt a lot of sympathy for that kid.
But so, what I was wondering, and I'm probably looking way too deep into this when I absolutely shouldn't be, I wonder if his character kind of mimics Elvis's story. How he was this kind of younger, poor kid who, like, couldn't afford his own guitar strap and stuff, you know, and stuff like that. And then he ends up becoming this big success story, right?
I guess we would just have to keep reading and see if he eats any Elvis foods. If he chows down on, like, the peanut butter and banana and bacon sandwich.
Yeah, they start introducing American food. But yeah, I was just wondering if that's, like, a visual cue of, like, hey, he's supposed to be this poor kid, you know, who doesn't really have much ends, and so, you know, by the end of the story, he's supposed to be this big success.
Yeah, I think
or
the pompadour
Who
is,
knows?
like, a shorthand for this is a cool kid or this is somebody really trying to be a cool kid.
Well, that's what it is
Yeah.
now, right? And I equate that with Elvis, right? And so that's why I'm like, oh, like, Elvis, what was his story? Oh, he was kind of this poor kid who couldn't really afford all this stuff, and then look at him, you know, down the road, he became this huge star. And so yeah, I was just like, I wonder if that's what this guy is gonna be. What did you think? What was that?
No, I was just going to tell you this tiny little sidebar. There is a comedy anime called Excel Saga that is just 100.
Heard of it.
It's completely bonkers. It's completely off the wall. And there is an episode, and, like, each episode was sort of a genre convention. Like, this is our whole beach episode, or this is our mecha episode.
The hot springs.
Yeah. And there's, like, a high school drama episode, and there's a character with a pompadour so large it sticks out like 12 feet from the top of his head, and he's just knocking stuff over with it.
That's fantastic.
I just wanted to throw that out there, because, like, I never in my life get enough chances to talk about the guy from Excel Saga with the giant pompadour.
Man with the large pompadour. Yeah, like, that's spending for, like, I guess that's the thing, right? Like, I don't know if competitive eating clubs are a real thing or not. Maybe they are, and they just aren't as big as this manga is making them out to be, or maybe they don't exist and this is all just good, stupid fun. But, like, okay, where was I going with that? Like, I have no idea where I was going with that. I completely lost my train of thought. What did you think? Okay. So here's what I was gonna say. As much as I wanted to know about the other characters and stuff, and Pompadour Man, and Emo Girl, like, at the same time, this whole competitive eating club thing is so foreign to me that they do kind of have to, like, spend time explaining that too.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of why I felt this book was so shallow and these characters didn't have much after reading 4 volumes, right? It's like, well, we have to learn about this whole culture and how the matches work of this competitive eating club. So yeah, like, did that bother you at all that we had to get kind of these info dumps about like how these matches worked and stuff like that? Or did you think it was kind of woven into the story well enough?
I don't know, because mostly I was just excited to learn about this stuff. Like, this was an info dump that, like, I really needed, like, I wanted to read. Like, part of the draw of picking this comic is, oh, this is a sport I know nothing about. Well, to be fair, I know nothing about any sports, so I probably would have needed as much information if we'd done, like, the track and field one or the volleyball one you also pitched. But yeah, I was looking forward to info. I wanted, like, real background context for what was going on. So if it was kind of slapdash added in there, I wasn't really paying attention to. So it's just like, oh boy, I'm glad it's here.
I bet you liked the scenes then when the one dude who the girls make all the bento boxes for, when he goes to do his own research, and he's like looking in encyclopedias and like old championship books.
I love that.
Competitive eating fact number 12, like section 1, you know, all eaters must do, you know, X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
And it just has these like info dump little captions of like, that's what he's reading.
Mm-hmm. And I love he just wandered into just a used bookstore and like picked it up right off the shelf, like Chow Down Championships Trivia Record Book Volume 12. Like, it's just there.
He just picks a random one. That was funny. Because, yeah, like, it's, again, as we've mentioned, it's so ridiculous that I want to know, like, all of this stuff. So I kind of don't mind the, like, the info dumps and just these large, like, okay, well, this is how you do a match and stuff like that. But at the same time, I think they tried to mix it in the story as much as they could, or, you know, get a character into a situation where it's like, okay, now the coach is going to have to step in and kind of explain, like, okay, well, in a normal match, that's not how it would work. You know, there's the one scene where they do, I guess, I think it was in that first volume, and the team does that exhibition match, and they, like, after they leave, they look at how much crumbs were on the floor and stuff like that, and like, in a real match they would have lost, you know. All of that stuff. So like I feel like as we got all those info dumps, though, it was just kind of random facts. It didn't be like, okay, teams are made up of like 5 or more. They usually only face one team at a time. Like, they didn't actually sit down to explain it yet. So I still feel like after 4 volumes, I still don't know exactly how all of this works.
Yeah. Yeah, I am looking forward to seeing an actual competition all put together. Like, from beginning to end, like, how does this whole thing work?
Especially when they started introducing the tricks, when they started, like, watching the tape of the team that they're gonna face in the first round. There was the thing where they were eating something that looked like spring rolls or egg rolls. I don't remember exactly what it is, but it's this like wrapped almost dumpling pastry kind of thing.
It's a tubular food.
Yeah. And the guy psychs out his opponent to make him think he's eating super fast by like looking like he's shoving the whole thing in his mouth. And then as he bites down, he pulls it out so he doesn't actually eat as much of it as you think he is.
Yeah.
And it like psychs out his opponent, like, oh man, he's eating super fast. Now I have to catch up. And then he starts eating fast, and that's what gets him tired out. And he's like, oh, I can't eat anymore. So like, that is also kind of a big trope of sports mangas, from what I understand, is that there are these tricks or these like psychological like things, like, oh, he's doing this one thing. How does he do that? Like in Initial D, which is all about street racing, or like if you've seen Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift, it's kind of that same thing. And there's the main character knows nothing about it, but just kind of naturally knows all of this stuff. And he's drifting around this corner, but he's doing it at these incredible speeds that you shouldn't be able to do it at. And so everyone is like, how is he doing this? What in the world, you know? And what they don't know is that he's hooking his front tire on the ins, like, I guess the roads in Japan, instead of having curves that go up, the road is lifted up, or like there's ditches on the outside to like drain the water off.
Okay.
And so he's hooking his tire in that ditch, like on the inside of that curb, and that's what keeps his car on the inside and not like, you know, because centripetal force will move the object on, you know, to the outside. Like, he should be drifting away from the curb, but he hugs it so tightly, and once they figure it out, they're like, oh, that's how he's doing it, that's so smart, you know. And so it's these like weird psychological tricks that I also love about the sports manga stuff.
Yeah, and I think even as stock and as formulaic as a story might be, you are going to find neat little surprises like that when it's a sport you know nothing about. Like, oh, I can figure out there is some sort of, oh, we're going up against that team, and that team is renowned for their trick. Like, I have no idea what the trick itself is going to be. And so, like, that surprise is enough for me.
Yeah, and then it's fascinating to see them in work, or like oh, he's doing this one, and then he goes into this combo, and then he's, you know, like, how is he gonna combat that?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm guessing in the next like volume 5 or 6 is when you get to see that first like official match. Unfortunately, we did not read that far, but yeah, it was some interesting stuff going on there.
What did you think about all of the food? Because it's not until, like, at the end of Volume 4 that you see some burgers. Before that, it is entirely, like, Japanese and nearby
food.
Asian cultured food that was all completely... Like, I know ramen, I know gyoza, but a lot of it was brand new to me, and that was really fun to learn about.
Yeah, well, like, I've heard some of the names of the different noodles and stuff. I've seen... that like ramen chute where they send it down the like bamboo chute thing.
I've
seen
of
stuff
that
like
thing.
that. It was interesting the way they did it. It was again just completely ridiculous what they did. So they almost have this like Rocky montage of them, like or like they could have had this Rocky montage of them training at this Buddhist temple. And yeah, they train themselves for competitive eating, which is also one of the most ridiculous things. It's amazing. But yeah, I mean, it's the idea that you need to like stretch your stomach out and keep it at a certain length. Like if you know you're gonna eat a big meal, you're not supposed to like fast beforehand. You're supposed to like eat more big meals beforehand. But they go to this Buddhist temple, and they get brought out to this like waterfall, and they're like, what are we doing here at this little waterfall? This is stupid. And then he explains it, and it's like, it's basically one of those bamboo shoots. Like, you've seen the like noodles flowing down the bamboo shoot things. That's what this is, and it's this giant waterfall of noodles. And it is the most ridiculous thing ever. Like, what did you think of that whole thing of them going to the temple and like prepare, like they're about to do their training? You still with me there? Can you?
Yeah.
Hear me?
Like, yeah. You cut out for like a second. What were you saying?
What did you think of the whole idea of them going to the temple and training and doing all that stuff there? Like, did you like that scene?
Yeah, that all made sense to me. Like, this seemed like a natural progression, but yeah, just the absolute insanity of We have completely scrubbed and sterilized a rock waterfall, and we only use filtered water, and we are going to send noodles down this waterfall into a pond, and you're going to get in there with big rubber waders, and you are just going to eat out of the pond? That was, that was so larger. It was so larger than life, and in like a way much stronger than I think anything else in the manga had been. I mean, there's some really incredible lines. Like, half the notes I wrote down, you know, for the story were just some of the lines, like, the cool guy, like the ladies' man, like, punching some guy and shouting, "Show that Bento some respect!" Like, the dialogue is super over the top, but this was the first, like, plot element that was also completely fantastical. And I really enjoyed it. I thought that was cool. Like, I don't know if that's like a definite break in the realm of the story, or if this is only a sign of more to come and it just gets crazier and crazier as we keep reading. But no, I like that a lot.
If the tropes of sports manga keep up, it's gonna get more and more ridiculous.
Oh.
Yeah. Who know, like, yeah, it's kind of like, it almost started to go into the realm of like kung fu stuff, and of this idea of like, we're at this like this temple training your mind, your body, and your soul, and they take that really seriously, right? They're training with these Tibetan monks, and you know, but they're eating. They're doing competitive eating. It's ridiculous. It's great. I love it. And
it is so easily something you could train for in your own home. But no, we all have to take our entire school break and go train at this temple.
Yeah, it's like their like 2-week vacation between semesters or whatever they do. But yeah, that was strange, and yeah, that was the first time that we saw something that wasn't strictly Japanese food.
Yeah, when those burgers show up.
Burgers show up, which was kind of a weird thing because they're supposedly at this temple. Kind of, I mean, I guess it's obviously not super far from the city, which is why we see the burgers and stuff like that, you know, but. It's like I would have expected to see the burgers in school, rather than like when they're at the temple. Yeah,
and like the little village surrounding the temple, where like the rival team has to stay until they get their like towards the end of the week, like 2-day block there at the temple. Like the temple has to be scheduled. This isn't like a secret thing that the coach knows. Like apparently a lot of competitive eating teams
it's
know.
A rite of passage is what they say.
Everybody has to go to this temple, and the main high school like scheduled a whole week, and the rival high school is like, oh dang, we have to hang around here and wait until we get our 2 days.
Yeah. That's... This manga is so much fun.
It is. And I learned a lot. Like
one of the things, because you asked me about the food, and I still haven't really answered. But that was kind of one of the things I like learned or was wondering, right? Is like, how does all of this different food like factor in? Yeah. Because they asked the monk, like, what was the hardest eating challenge you ever did? And he says steak.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. Like, meat is heavier. It especially like thick red meat like steak. Like, that takes a while for your body to process it. But even stuff like rice, like the amount of rice that they eat, like, rice fills you up. Because it's kind of like bread that when it gets wet, it expands.
Oh, yeah.
Which is kind like, they didn't mention it explicitly, but they did say, yeah, this one dude who was eating like all these rice bowls could only eat 12 of them because he drank water too fast.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, like, I'm wondering how all these different foods, like what their techniques are. Like I'm still fascinated to learn about all that stuff. Because have you ever watched those like hot dog eating contests and stuff that they have?
I've seen the movie Stand By Me, where there's that pie eating scene, but that's it.
Sure. So I think it's on. I think it used to be on Spike TV. Maybe it's on ESPN because sports, competitive eating. But they have this like annual hot dog eating contest. I think at the start of the summer, so it might have just happened. I don't know. But yeah, people from around the world compete in this international hot dog eating contest, and it's literally just plain hot dogs in buns, and they have water and lemonade, and that's it. And they have to eat as many as they can in 10 minutes, and they end up eating like 30 of them. It's ridiculous. And you would think you just like eat it, and then when you're thirsty you take a sip. But these guys have all of these like wild tactics of like, okay, I'm gonna take the hot dog out of the bun, I'm gonna eat the hot dog by itself, I'm gonna dip my bun in the water so it's soggy and it can, I don't have to chew it. And so they like stuff this like soggy bun in their mouth and swallow it, and it's just like it's disgusting, but it's fascinating to watch.
Yeah, like these are the real life hacks for something you don't need to do. Like you didn't need to develop this science,
probably
but
shouldn't do.
But like I guess good on you that you did figure it out. Like I don't share your same goals, but it's good that you have one and you figured out a lot of new and inventive strategies to achieve that goal. Like, I like the inventiveness of competitive eating as a concept.
Yeah. So, what would you... Like, was there stuff about this book? We kind of mentioned some things that we didn't think it was written too well. What were some of the things you didn't like about this book? Or... you thought they could have done better?
Definitely, like, a lot of the characters were drawn too similarly to each other. And, like, there's so many goons in this book. Just, like, every...
It's a good word for them.
Yeah, like,
fucking goons.
Every rival is just, like, a pile of, like, very similar-looking goons. And the high school's full of goons. And... I just would have liked a lot more, like, visual diversity among the characters, and just that they had, like, just, like, a little bit more personality. Like, out of that first roster of guys, like, one of them has glasses, and all of them are in different grades in school, but, like, there's nothing that sets any of them apart. Like, oh, that guy, he loves... models. He's always making a model Gundam. Like, none of them had, like, anything about their personality, or, like, that guy's sleepy, or that guy's allergic. He's always sniffling. How can he eat when his nose is stuffed up? Like, there's nothing. There's no hook to grab onto with the original roster of guys, and it gets better with the second roster, but I just wish there was more, like...
Yeah, so... I was just gonna say, like... it gets better with that second team, and all their rivals also are these, like, they all kind of look the same, these goons, as you put it. But I think at the same time that kind of helps it as well, because if everyone looks the same except for, like, the main team that you're supposed to focus on, they stand out, right? Which still, like, we don't know much about them, so they're kind of cardboard cutouts, but hopefully we get more of their story down the road.
Yeah, and I think, like, the stock characters, like, I can see why it was used. Like, every sports story is essentially the same. We are just sort of stretching a new sports skin over the same tent poles that have always been there. Everybody's just a pole of some kind. And then, like, you know, it's the fabric of the tent
Yeah.
that makes it different, I guess, in this weird metaphor. And so, and then, like, it was fine for me to start out with, but if I went through and read this entire series and we were at the end just as we are now, like, here in the middle, I think I'd be kind of disappointed if nobody ended up turning out to have any layers like that. Like, I kind of get why they don't have a lot of layers to begin with, but I don't want them to plateau. I don't want them to stay at that level the entire time. Yeah. I want to know, like, what the real stakes are for everybody to win this competition, besides, like, high school pride. Like, oh, is the prize money? Does, like, the Pompadour kid want to win the prize money to, like, take home to his sick mom? You know, what are the girls' goals? Does she want to go to college? What kind of job does she want to go into? Like, I need more of that at some point.
Yeah. On one hand, I kind of would have liked a lot more detail, but at the same time, that would have made it go a lot slower. And we read 4 volumes, and they haven't done an official match yet.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's like, okay, for as fast as this manga moved along and as quick of a read as it was, like, I kind of wanted to see an official match.
Yeah.
And, like, have it explained a little bit more. And, like, maybe that's something that they could have done in the first volume somehow. Is, like, because we did get to see that original team, but even then, like, they were doing this, like, exhibition thing at a restaurant. You know, it's... I wish I knew more about the actual sport than what we know at the end of the 4 volumes.
Yeah.
And especially in sports mangas, you mentioned this kind of idea of, like, we're stretching the same skin, or, like, the same story over a different sport each time. And that makes a lot of sense, and I think that's why, especially in sports mangas, the characters really, really, really need to be strong. Because if they're not strong, then it just ends up being this generic story that you can get 50 other places, right? So yeah, like, I kind of wished we knew more about the characters by now. So that's kind of my big critique. It's a fine line to walk. It's definitely hard to find that balance of, like, we need to give these characters time, but there's also this sport that we don't really know the culture of, or the, you know, how it actually works, and they all need equal screen time. And page time.
For all we know, this is maybe like the competitive eating challenge sports manga for beginners, and out there's like one that presumes you know a lot more about the sport to begin with, and it's less exposition and it is more character development.
Potentially, yeah. So let's see. I'm looking. Doom. On Geary Battle. So I'm looking. I can't find much information about this online. Seems like it's a fairly new.
Yeah, I think I looked it up and I was surprised
manga.
To see it was published in like 2013.
2013. Yep.
Yeah, because it feels kind of.
It is.
Like, the art is very sort of timeless. Like, the art doesn't speak to any particular style or time period or aesthetic to me, really. Maybe it would if I knew a lot about manga.
Yeah. I mean, manga is kind of one of those things where it's like a lot, like, it's usually one person that does all of the, well, yes and no. Like, they come up at least with the character designs, and this is how they should look, and maybe they have an assistant or two to actually help them, you know, get the pages done. But yeah, it's usually one person writing and drawing it, and to varying degrees of skill at both of them. Right. So, like, if you're looking for a sports manga, I think this is a very fun one to start out with, just
yeah.
because of how ridiculous it is. Which I think will kind of broach the idea that, yeah, there is going to be this kind of ridiculous drama. You better respect that bento box, you know? And just like how serious they take stuff, and it seems kind of over the top. But if you can kind of get past that, then, you know, I think you'll end up having a lot of fun.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun with this. It's a very quick read. It's just light and amusing. I had a good time. I think I would recommend it to somebody else. Less is like a great story, and more is just like a fun experience where you learn something new.
It's more of a fun experience than like, hey, this is actually a good book. So yeah. I don't know. I think there's 6 volumes out on Comixology Unlimited. We only read the first 4, but yeah, I think that may wrap us up there. We kind of just said our last final thoughts. Do you have anything else though?
Just that, as I was reading this book, and it's giving you so many little footnotes explaining like what all these different Japanese dishes are, I spent a lot of time thinking about, what if there are American comics that are sent to Japan and it's full of footnotes about our food? Like, you know, Barry Allen goes to Taco Bell and there's a little asterisk at the bottom saying, 4th meal is a Taco Bell invention of a meal you eat late at night after dinner.
That would be
so
great.
I really want to see something like that someday.
And then you see one of the hobbits there. But what about second breakfast? Yeah, like I'm sure that happens all the time. Yeah, it's good. It's fun. I think out of all of the things we've read or watched on the Whatnauts Review Show or the previous incarnation as the Whatnauts, I think this is maybe the most fun I've had reading or watching something. Like there are things that were a million times were a million times better written. That sentence was very poorly constructed, I'm sure someone else out there could write it a million times better than I did. Like just like stuff I'm interested in. Like there's so much more out there. Like this is not something I'm typically interested in. I kind of want to dip my toes in and see, but it was a good surprise. Yeah,
this was something brand new to me, and I am glad I went for this new experience.
Yeah, it was good. It was fun. It's fun. So,
okay, are we ready
read the last 2. So, real quick before we do pitches, I read the last 2 volumes of this yesterday. And I went to Chili's to go sit down and eat. I was hoping to go to Panda Express, but Panda Express was closed. Yeah, it was dumb. So I ended up going to Chili's, and Chili's is just, you know, it's kind of an average restaurant. Yeah, I'm like sitting there eating food as they're like eating food. And so I had their like chicken bacon ranch quesadillas, and it's huge. And then I got a molten chocolate cake after, and I had like 3 cups of soda and all that stuff. So I was just like, man, I am sure eating a lot.
Yeah, this really put me in the mood for like, there's no Japanese restaurant in my immediate vicinity, but there is a really good Thai place. So I did go to the Thai place last night and have like
there you go.
A giant pile of pad Thai. It was really good.
If nothing else, this book will inspire you to go get some good food and just chow down.
Yeah, the food is illustrated beautifully.
It's like Final Fantasy 15 level like food. If you're a gamer and you've played that game, you know how well the food is rendered in that game. It's ridiculous. But yeah, that's it for now, I believe. We are about to pick and decide what we are going to do for next week. Stick around and see. Melissa, it is your turn to pitch all of this stuff.
Okay.
What do you got for me?
So lately my picks have been very movie heavy. So this week I have 2 TV shows and 1 television miniseries. Trying to balance that out. And so our next episode we will be recording on July 8th. So to sort of stay loosely on theme with the 4th of July, pitch number 1 is American Gods.
Ooh.
Yeah. This is the Stars series, I believe aired last year, based on the novel by Neil Gaiman, developed by Brian Fuller, who's the guy who did Pushing Daisies and Hannibal and lots of neat stuff. And it is about Shadow Moon, who meets a strange man named Mr. Wednesday after being released from prison, and he soon becomes embroiled in a large-scale conflict between the old gods and the new gods, who grow stronger each day.
Sounds good to me.
And I know there's...
I've heard it's kind of like all of the gods out there are real and exist, but there's these new, like, American gods that show up and are kind of taken over. That's kind of what I've heard. I don't know how accurate that is. But
I think it's something like that. And I've read some Gaiman books. I've not read this one. I wanted to check out the TV series first so that I wouldn't be caught in that, like, comparison trap. Because I don't like to be there when I'm comparing something to the book it's based off of. So, yeah.
See, I like to read the original first. I'm all about that. Like, I will go back and read it first. Usually, if I can. But yeah. So that's pitch number 1, American Gods, the TV show.
Yeah, and that is 8 episodes, and you can find it on Amazon Prime. I think there might be some way where you like get like a Stars trial and you can watch it for free for a week. And I found it on DVD at my local video store, which I know is an archaic luxury not everyone has. And then pitch number 2, recently on our latest episode of the Captain's Log, well, the latest one we recorded, I was telling you about how I love live theater, and recently I went to see a production of The Wiz, and that reminded me of the 2007 Sci-Fi Channel miniseries Tin Man. Do you remember this?
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Is Joss Whedon somehow involved in that? What am I thinking of? You're making a face.
No, I don't know what you're thinking of, because I don't think he's involved at all.
No? Okay. I have, like, for some weird reason, I was like, I think maybe he's involved. I don't know.
I think, like,
somehow.
This was also the year of, like, Dollhouse and Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog, so maybe your brain just laid all those things over each other.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know what you're thinking about. I'm sorry.
Tell me about Tin Man, then.
Tin Man was a miniseries that aired on the Sci-Fi Channel. It is 3 90-minute episodes. It stars Zooey Deschanel, Alan Cumming, and some other people. And
Zooey Deschanel, that's who it is. Because, you know, we all mix up Zooey and Joss. Good one, Kyle.
Yeah. The miniseries is a continuation of the classic story The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, with science fiction and fantasy elements added in. It focuses on the adventures of a small-town waitress...
Wait. So The Wizard of Oz wasn't sci-fi or fantasy to begin with?
To be fair, I copied this text out of Wikipedia, and it says it adds additional fantasy elements. So, but yeah, This is like a full sci-fi Wizard of Oz. It focuses on the adventures of a small-town waitress named DG, who is pulled into the magical realm called the OZ, ruled by the tyrannical sorceress Ascadelia. Together with her companions Glitch, Raw, and Kane, DG journeys to uncover her lost memories, find her true parents, and foil Ascadelia's plot to trap the OZ in eternal darkness. So yeah, it is...
What was that children's show? Yo Gabba Gabba. This sounds like a Yo Gabba Gabba version of The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, it is, and it's so sci-fi, it's so edgy, and I remember thinking it was cool when I was 17, and I'm really intrigued to find out, like, how this thing has aged and what I think of it now a decade later.
Okay.
Yep, and that is on...
Interesting. That's Tin Man.
Yeah, and that is on Amazon Prime. And then
Awesome.
the third pitch is something I have no familiarity with. This is the AMC TV series Into the Badlands.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen season 1 of this.
Oh, okay, that's what I was going to pitch. Because AMC is a channel that's on TV a lot when, like, I'm at my parents' house, or it'll be on at my gym because they show a lot of movies. And I keep seeing commercials for Into the Badlands, and it looks like such a visually dazzling show. Like, very brightly colored. The logo is, like, a butterfly or something made out of, like, neon-dyed, like, weapons all collaged together. Like, it looks pretty. And I've never heard anybody talk about it. And I can't get a great handle on the plot just from these commercials. So I really want to know, what is this thing? And so I didn't look into it a lot because I wanted to go in kind of blind. And so I just picked up from Wikipedia. It is an American television series that premiered on AMC in 2015. The series features a story about a warrior and a young boy who journey through a dangerous feudal land together seeking enlightenment. It seems like it's got kind of like a kung fu, like really heightened
it
like
is
kung fu
very
vibe
much
to it.
Kung fu, very much so.
Yeah.
Like, almost like post-apocalyptic kung fu.
Which isn't something I would normally go for, but I'm so intrigued by the visuals of this show, and I'm just tired of not knowing what it is when I keep seeing these commercials. So, season 1 is 6 episodes, and that is on Netflix.
I'm thinking either American Gods or Into the Badlands. Let's see. American Gods was 8 episodes, you said?
Yeah, that one is 8 episodes.
Okay.
And Into the Badlands is 6.
Let's do American Gods.
Awesome! That'll be really fun to watch this week of the 4th of July.
Yes. That's probably the most 4th of July one out of the 3.
Yeah.
Even though they're not, none of them are really 4th of July.
No.
Like if you had pitched like the Patriot or
Independence Day
know.
and I don't know, the Music Man.
Yeah, something like that. It's like, oh, okay, yay, America. Yeah, let's do American Gods. I've been wanting to read that and watch it. I think I have the book on my Amazon wish list. I'm just like, I kind of want to read that someday.
Yeah.
Maybe one day my mom will buy me a book. Who knows? But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited because I've heard good things about the show, but I don't know. I don't know anything about the story. It's Neil Gaiman. People really like Neil Gaiman. So yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
I think we'll have plenty to talk about next week.
For sure. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. If you were on the live stream, thank you. You guys can follow us on Twitch at twitch.tv/the Whatnauts, but you don't even need to go there to watch our live streams. You can go to thewhatnauts.com/live streams anytime we are live making a show. It's every Sunday at noon Eastern time. We will be here recording new episodes of the Whatnauts Review Show. But hey, if you can't make the live stream, that is a-okay, because we will put this episode up early if you support us on Patreon for just $1. You guys can get all our episodes early, which we just started up the Captain's Log again. So we have 2 weekly shows going now. So that means if you give us $1, you get 8 episodes a month. Maybe 9 or 10, depending on if we do episodes of the Reactor Core. And you get all of those early. That's like pennies for an episode that we do. So if you like what we do here, if you like this, if you like any of our shows, patreon.com/the Whatnauts, and that is where you can support us for just $1. But if you don't want to give us your hard-earned cash, we totally understand. And we just want you guys to enjoy the show and have a good time. You guys can at least tell a friend or retweet our episodes or tweet about them. Like us on Twitter or on Facebook, wherever you guys can find us. And I think that is it. Next week we are doing the American Gods TV show, Season 1. So go watch that with us. Follow along. Join us at the live stream. I guess I forgot to mention that if you don't support us on Patreon, or if you do, and you miss the live stream, this will be up as a podcast and on YouTube the following week. That being said, I think that is pretty much everything. We're hoping to get video. This goes up on YouTube, so technically it's a video that's on there. But we've been experimenting with our cameras, so we've had them on for the live stream. I haven't found the right settings, I don't think, yet, so I'm gonna see what happened with this one. And hopefully I'm going to keep tinkering around with that, because if we can have our cameras on the whole time, sweet. You guys can see us reacting to all of the stuff, and it'll be a lot more interesting to look at on YouTube. So hopefully we figure that stuff out soon. That being said, last bit of housekeeping. All of our podcasts have their own separate RSS feed, meaning if you only want to subscribe to the Whatnauts Review Show on iTunes, you can only subscribe to that one if you want to, or if you want to subscribe to the Captain's Log, you can do that one. As many shows as you want from us, you can subscribe to. The thing is, it's having a little bit of issues right now, so not all of the episodes are showing up in the proper thing. However, we still have our master feed up there. If you search the Whatnauts in iTunes or whatever podcast catcher you have, all of our stuff will pop up. But the one that is like the Whatnauts, that is our master feed, and all of the episodes go up there, and they are working fine just on that one. The plan is to get rid of that one and hide it, so you guys will have to subscribe to each of the shows individually, but we're running into some trouble. So be aware of that. We're working on that to fix it. We will let you guys know when everything is good to go and squared away. That being said, I've been talking way too long, and you guys aren't going to remember any of this information. Next week, American Gods, Season 1. My name is Kyle Springer. Melissa, thank you for joining me. Where can they find you?
I am on Twitter at Wilkywit, WILKYWIT.
Sweet. And you guys can yell at me on the internet at Hush315 on Twitter, and you can follow the Whatnauts on Twitter at the Whatnauts for updates on all of our shows. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been the Whatnauts Review Show. We will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.